I'm Jason Pinkston, and this is your Backstage Pass. Today on Backstage Pass, we hang out at the Exit Inn in Nashville for the Kendell Marvel Honky Tonk experience, and to pick the brain of the multifaceted producer of Kendell's upcoming album, Keith Gattis.
Singer, songwriter, band leader, producer. How do we introduce you, Keith?
I don't know. Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades, master of none?
That might be more the case there.
No, I don't think so. I think you're the master of all of them. How do you identify yourself?
I just usually just tell people I play music.
Yeah.
You know, and I do a little bit of everything. And
You're an artist, right?
I just make music. Job changes from day to day, but it's good.
I first became familiar with you, I don't know the year now, but I heard a song, and it was Charlie Robinson. It was El Cerrito Place.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I remember when I heard that, I thought there's nothing else out there that sounds anything like this right now. It kind of had that Southwest, Southern California type of vibe. Is there a story behind that song?
I had left Nashville, moved to Hollywood. Me and a buddy of mine that I went out there with, we ended up deciding that rent was so expensive out there that we needed to maybe partner up and be roommates in a place, and so it just so happened that we found this place on a 2-block street called El Cerrito Place. I mean, there's a lot of backstory in there, you know, if you hear the song, but everything pretty much in that whole story is true, and all the setting and the scenery that you see when you hear that song, that's where I lived.
When Kenny Chesney recorded it, was it received differently?
Oh, sure. I mean, you know, that's just more mainstream, and yeah, you know what? It just opened it up to a bigger audience. And
Did you record it before Charlie Robinson?
I did it first on a record I made out in California called Big City Blues. I guess somehow Charlie got a copy of that record. I was supposed to go tour on that record, and I got the job with Dwight, and so I kind of postponed my own personal career for a minute to go play with him because he's one of my heroes. And
Sure.
you know, at the time before I even started playing with him, we became really good friends, so it was a lot of fun. So I decided to go do that, and I was actually out playing with Dwight when Charlie called me and said, "Hey man, you mind if I cut this song?" And it was great. It's the best thing that ever happened to that song.
So let's jump to that. Being on the road with Dwight Yoakam.
He started coming out and seeing me play, or just kind of hanging out in the scene that I was playing in out in Hollywood and surrounding areas of Los Angeles. It was a cool kind of country rock scene happening whenever I moved out there. It was about 2001, 2, and kind of became friends. And he ended up having a couple of gigs that he wanted to do just acoustic and wanted somebody to back him up, and called me and asked me if I'd do it, and I said, of course, love to. He was sitting in with our band and coming to a bunch of our shows, and we just kind of, I don't know, started making music together, you know, a little bit, just more organically and naturally than, you know, anything forced or, hey, I need to hire you, or you know, so it was more like that. And then he had a lot of fun doing the few shows that we did where it was just he and I on acoustic, and so we did a tour called Almost Alone, and it was just he and I. And then he decided to put a new band together and asked me if I'd help him with it. And so I told him I'd love to, but I need a couple of weeks to think about it, you know, because I still had my record I was working on. I was doing some other producing, and then it just kind of came down for me as like, you know, if Dwight Yoakam asked you to go put a band together and go on the road, you go.
What are you going to say?
Yeah, I wouldn't do that for too many people, but for him, yeah. Bob Dylan, probably.
Probably.
Perhaps one of the most interesting things to know about Keith Gattis' career of singing, songwriting, and producing music is that he never set out to do most of it.
I moved here to Nashville in '92, and I kind of came just as a musician, and I kind of came as a utility guy, or thinking I was going to be a utility guy, because I played a little bit of a lot of different instruments, and talk about jack of all trades and master of none, that really was me back then. I really didn't play any of them well, and I figured out once I moved here I needed to get really good at one thing. So I kind of set all my other instruments aside and started focusing on just probably what I was best at, which was singing, performing, and playing electric guitar. I had a few gigs on the road, but my first really cool gig I think I was 23. I played with Johnny Paycheck.
Wow.
Toured with him, yeah. And about the time that was done, I got a record deal with RCA here in Nashville and started making my own records. So I did that for a while, pretty much right up until the time I moved to LA.
So how did you get into producing then? Because you produced Kendall's new album.
Uh-huh. You know, I just started doing it. When I moved to LA, it just kind of started happening. I produced that Big City Blues record of mine. And then I met this guy, Waylon Payne, who's actually singing tonight. He was living out there, and we started playing around together a little bit in different bars and different situations in Hollywood. And I just thought somebody needed to make a record on him, and so made a record on him. He got a record deal immediately with it. And so I just kind of started doing it a little bit at a time, just out of more than anything. It's like I just needed to, you know, because it's like there were, whether it was my stuff or other people that, you know, weren't able to figure it out for themselves. I felt like they needed to make a record, so if I didn't do it, nobody else would,
right?
Kind of thing, and kind of more just for the love of music and just the acknowledgement of, you know, some artists that I really thought were great that needed to be heard. So that's really how I started doing it. For whatever reason, it's just more about instinct and if it really feels right and it feels like it's something I can help with. So if I can't help somebody, you know, end up being better than they even thought they could be on tape, then I don't need to take their money, you know.
You're wasting both of your time.
And wasting time, sure.
Do you want to give your studio a plug? Is it Pioneer Town? Is that what it's called?
Pioneer Town, yeah.
Where is that located?
It's just outside of Nashville.
In doing your introduction, I left out one other thing. You're also a Texan, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I know that plays a big role in your style of music.
Sure, yeah. You know, in Texas, especially when I grew up, there's quite a wide range of musical styles and a lot of influences for me to pull from. You know, living in Texas, you had everybody from George Strait to ZZ Top, and you know, all the older Western swing guys and the Bob Wills guys and that crew, and then, you know, the shuffle kings Johnny Bush and Ray Price. Everybody was still playing down there, and that was still a big part of the whole scene. And really, before I kind of grew up down there before the new Texas country thing blew up and happened. And back then, it was down there. There's a lot of different styles of music, you know, and it all made sense to me.
Speaking of Texas and George Strait, I mean, we can't have this interview without talking about the fact that you got a couple of George Strait cuts. I mean, that's the top of the heap.
Yeah, I think he cut on the last two records. I think he's cut a total of 7 of my songs on the last 2 records.
I Got a Car is a really good song, and it kind of uses the vehicle as like a metaphor for glove or something. Is
that thanks, man.
Did you write that? Did you just write that, or did you have any experience in that, or just kind of pulling from a?
Well, I don't know. You know, a lot of those kind of songs you still pull from all sorts of your own experiences.
Sure.
And I had a co-writer on that, Tom Douglas. So, you know, he's got his own experiences too.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Even if you're making up a story, it's seldom completely just made up.
You're drawing from something.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, we couldn't be here tonight, I guess, and not talk about the Honky Tonk experience. So,
here we are again. What is this, number 4 or 5? And
that's right.
Getting bigger and better every time.
This was the first time, when I came here, this was the first time I saw you perform, but then since then I've seen you perform a few other times, and you're the consummate performer. You're so interesting to watch when you're playing. I mean, you're like your own show.
I have no idea, yeah.
Well, that's good, though, because I think it must be that you're feeling the music.
It's definitely not a show or an act. I just kind of get into the music usually. If I'm into it, I get into it.
Sure.
You know.
What's next, or do you not know? Or are you just going where the wind takes you?
Yeah, well, always. Sure. What's next is I'm about to play with Kendell up here and do a bunch of honky tonk songs really loud in a rock bar.
Willie or Waylon? That's the hardest one.
I mean, for me, Willie.
Yeah, I'm a Willie fan too. I mean, through and through. I love Waylon too.
It's almost like it's not fair.
It is not. It's an unfair question. Mexican or Italian?
Oh, Mexican.
Yeah. Okay. What was the other ones? I can't even think of.
Boxers and briefs.
Well, I'm not going to do that one. That's when there's a girl host.
I'm Jason Pinkston, and this has been your Backstage Pass.